Hello.
Hello.
Last time. Sad face.
Alright.
Except spring break, so
Yeah,
yeah.
to start with our jigsaws again.
Of course.
Alrighty. So I can go first.
Do it.
So I had the tunnel chapter.
Discuss the types of informational books and characteristics that one should look for in choosing the item.
Yep. And there's two main categories of nonfiction books. So there's biography and informational. And like biography obviously is about people and informational is about like animals, plants, things like that. And it talked about how these are usually ones that students don't gravitate toward reading.
Mm-hmm.
I would.
I would.
And it's like,
Oh, right.
because often they're not the ones that are used for like pleasure reading, because like growing up, parents generally like when they first start reading to their children, it's like picture books,
Yeah.
fiction and things like that, and like usually they don't go to this section of libraries or a bookstore by choice. Usually it's for a report,
Yep.
and they have a reputation for being boring.
I know. I still feel that way sometimes. Like I have to like make myself go into that part of the bookstore and look and like, okay, it is really fun, but it's like, ew, nonfiction. I see the big non in front of it, and it just like it's like
No fun.
exactly yeah.
And then I talked about the different characteristics to look for, and there were 6. So having an attractive design,
Mm-hmm.
like having like a eye-catching cover that like draws the reader in, and not only that, like the layout it's varied within it. So like rather than having like page of text, picture, varying it a little so it changes it up.
Yeah.
And then little known facts, and they described them as details that create images and that stir up interest and provide a starting point for greater understanding.
Yeah.
And so like they just help to take the reader into the life for like of like a person or whatever the artifact or animal it may be that they're talking about.
Something I was just thinking about that I found kind of interesting is like, I never wanted to go for nonfiction books, and yet I would watch educational shows as a kid all the time. Yeah, like I was always like loving Bill Nye the Science Guy and like Kratz Creatures and all that. You know, it's like because like it got me thinking about it was when you said that it had to have like an attractive design to it, and like those shows made it so much more fun. And yeah, it's like you learned a lot. Like I can still remember stuff I learned from like Bill Nye and all that, but it's because it was just fun to watch. Bill.
That's the only part I remember.
Yeah. It's stuck in my head now.
Science rules.
Okay. And then the third thing they talked about was in unusual viewpoints. So ones that we don't typically hear from. Like, there was an example in the text about this author who tries to answer unusual questions like, what was it? Things like, why is the sky blue, or strange questions like that. And then he'd like try to answer each of the questions.
Yeah, because like, you know, I've noticed kids love having like weird facts to share with people. Like, did you know if you cut off a newt's tail, it'll grow back? You know, stuff like that.
Yeah. Fun little facts. And then talked about fascinating comparisons, and how they help to like make the facts more relatable to the reader and like instantly makes them clear. Like I talked about in Saturn, like if Saturn was hollow, you could fit like 150 Earths in it.
Dang.
Or something like that. I don't know if it was that high, but things like that just make them realize like, oh, that's what they mean, like understanding numbers or how big or small something is.
Yeah.
And like just creating those powerful images that help communicate the facts. And then it talked about first-person accounts, kind of make it more appealing because it kind of becomes more of like a personal tour rather than just recounting all these facts. And so you kind of just like are alongside the author, experience it as they do. And then lastly was accuracy, which of course is important.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something about that.
And how it like can't have any hint of inaccuracy or unrealistic features.
Yeah, it's like one wrong thing, it loses all its credibility, you know?
Yeah, like no talking animals or anything like that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Unless they're having like the animal being a narrator as like a little character, and you know that it's like a fictional character in the book, you know, like little toucan is telling us about the Amazon, you know?
Yeah. And then I had to discuss the different types of informational books. So there's the traditional chapter book, which explains or introduces like one subject, and it can be like really detailed or really broad. And any topic can be covered in chapter books. And then informational picture books, which tend to be taller, thinner, and more heavily illustrated. And they present ideas in more depth. And then there's activity books, which ask readers to do things beyond reading. So like how-tos or craft books or baking,
I
things
think
like
of zoo
that.
books, you know, because they have like the little activities you could do in it too, and like the posters you could pull out.
Yeah, and then there's concept books, which we've talked about before, that introduce one topic to the reader. And then journals and interviews, which it says are the two most common kinds of books that are based on primary sources. And then photo essays, so just using photos. It's kind of like photojournalism almost, like using photos to accompany the text. And then pop-ups, which I found to be interesting. Like I've never heard of pop-ups being like informational. It's always been fictional to me.
Kids love those.
I always remember, like when I was a little kid, I'd go over to my cousin's house, right? And they had this dinosaur pop-up book. And it was just the coolest thing ever, because like you'd open it and this big old triceratops head would be there. I'm like, oh my god, I was obsessed with dinosaurs when I was a kid.
Yeah. And how like each different like font they can like pull up, there's new information, and it kind of makes it that engaging. Like, oh, what's under here? Okay, what if I turn this? And then there's reference books like encyclopedias, dictionaries, atlases, and then series books. So like the one they talked about was the United States and how each state had its own book.
Oh, that's cool.
Which you probably could do for like presidents as well, have each president have their own book.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
Which brings me to the book I had, and I had to like compare it to this
Why don't
list
you hold up your
of
book?
the like
Look at
criteria.
them presidents. Do, 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 do.
And so like I thought it had like a really attractive design. Like there's the cover, it just catches your attention, like this cartoon-like representation of the presidents, and then each page has like each president and the first lady.
That's hilarious.
And it's not like just facts about what they did as presidents. It's just fun little facts that a lot of people probably wouldn't know about them.
That's funny.
Like they had like Teddy Roosevelt has a stamp collection.
Oh, what about
Cool things that are really gonna take it.
Taft.
Students.
Oh yeah, Taft.
The
Yeah.
nickname of Sleeping Beauty because he would like fall asleep
Oh my
like
gosh.
all over. Like he fell asleep at a funeral. What else? I had it
Oh.
in here. Oh, it doesn't say on here, but like, and then Abraham Lincoln grew his beard out the way he did because of a suggestion from an 11-year-old. Like, I found it
Oh
really
my gosh.
interesting, like, just reading all these fun facts. And
Yeah, that makes kind of presidents seem more realistic.
Yeah,
Not like these, like, oh my gosh, they,
Power people.
yeah.
old dead white guys.
Another thing I liked is you don't have to read, like, cover to cover. You can read separate
Chapters.
sections, like, independently of one
That's
another.
cool. It's kind of like that project you were telling me about before, like where you can use that to go for each president, you know?
Mm-hmm. I had to do a project in high school with like each page we had to like have information about the presidents and like we had to have like fun facts about them.
Yeah.
This would have been perfect.
Oh my gosh.
But like, yeah.
Oh, you did have a long section.
I did. I tried to make it short, but
That's
there's
okay.
just a lot.
Mine's long too, so don't sweat it.
We're all good. I took like 10 minutes to do that page. Yeah.
Am I next or someone else? What person are you? See you.
I'm D.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm next. Okay. So mine is kind of long too. They basically asked me to talk about Tunnels chapter 13, about the typical personalities and different types of bibliographies. Wow, biographies. So, okay, I will try not to take too long. So personalities, the first one is scientists and inventions, which is like Albert Einstein. Like that's how he would be put in as a personality. Political leaders, which is like presidents and senators and kings and queens. And there was a little tidbit about political leaders where they would have biographies like already written, and whoever like won, those ones would like won the election, those ones would be published, and the person that lost would just be thrown in the garbage.
Oh.
Yeah. So the next category is artists, musicians, actors, authors, and other people from the arts. So these are, like bands. So we talked about the Beatles as an example.
I remember I read it, like when I was in middle school, I read the biography of Orlando Bloom. He was so cool.
The next one is sports personalities, and they made a note that this is like a really trendy topic. Like, it was talking about how to notice how many people from the Olympics come out with biographies, like after. The next is explorers and adventurers, which are people who take risks and push back the frontiers of science and geography. Next one is humanitarianism, which is basically the heroic qualities. You guys understand that. And the next one, people who overcome tremendous odds. That is the category. So that focuses also on like struggling and
It's really broad.
Yeah, it is. Because again, couldn't anybody in any of those categories
It
be
gets
in that?
broader. Next one is villains. And the last one is other interesting people.
That could be anything.
So,
Okay,
and I quoted it because it's about ordinary people who have interesting lifestyles.
What? That could be anybody on that list. Just like, okay, I know I'm getting all philosophical and whatever, but with the villains, couldn't anybody be a villain to somebody?
Yeah, I think they're talking about like, rules.
Yeah.
Like, disability, like.
Just like anyone could be someone's
ordinary,
antagonist.
But his lifestyle is different than ours.
That's funny.
Okay, and then there's different categories on biographies, like what types of actual biographies there are. So there are autobiographies. Yeah, you guys know that. There's picture book biographies, which are for young readers, and they're still very informational, but they just have more pictures, kind of like how yours was. Then there's simplified biographies, which are kind of just summarize.
Almost like this.
Yeah, so they take a couple of points and they summarize it. It's not like, this is what happens.
Yeah, not like every single detail.
And then complete is the entire life of a subject. So that was really like the cat with the yellow star. Like we followed her till the end. And then partial is where it has more focus, purpose than complete biographies do. So I think it's just like a step further. So then I had to take those ideas and put them towards the children's books for this week. I had to put them towards the cat with the yellow star, Harvesting Hope, and Eleanor.
I forgot about Eleanor.
Whoa.
I really wish we could have actually
Had it.
and read the actual story, not just tidbits of it.
Okay, so the cat with the yellow hat, sorry, I just realized I could. I said that it would be a complete biography because it showcases her entire life. And I also said that it was against her odds. She still found positivity through the musical, which was really cool, I thought. Then I applied it to Harvesting Hope, which is the red book. And I thought it was pretty much the same as The Cat with the Yellow Hat, besides the fact that it was only a partial autobiography. Didn't really share with us, it shared with us his journey, but it wasn't as in-depth as Cat with the Yellow Star. And then Eleanor, which was pretty interesting. I liked having it read to me, but I considered it to be a simplified bibliography because it talks about her life before she was the president's wife, and it kind of like then drops it on us that she became the president's wife, like continued and took off. Yeah, so I just had to do with those 3 books. I didn't have to do it with wanting more. But that was
I
it.
was thinking about this because this is based off of something that actually happened, but it's
Yeah, did you read her little blurb?
Yeah.
Okay, that glossary, I could have, if I knew about that, it would have been.
I forgot to tell you I was going to.
I got to the end, I was like, oh my god.
I was wondering because I was like, I don't understand half these words.
Yeah, I like didn't even think to look in the back. Okay, why don't you go ahead and start?
Alrighty, so I was section D, and I was talking about that about the article with Ming Fong Ho, and so I was supposed to talk about how does Ming Fong's experience allow her to tell stories of Cambodia and Thailand. So it's about a lot of it is just like what is making her an expert, what's making her credible, kind of the whole like half autobiography, but also kind of also there you go.
It's a long week.
It's a long week for
Don't
sure.
worry about it.
Anyway, so I'll start with my first question about how her experiences allow her to tell stories of Cambodia and Thailand. Well, she was born and raised. She was born in Burma and raised in Singapore and lived in Bangkok and Taiwan. So she was all over the place. So she grew up in these places and like really learned, like she knew the culture, the language. She probably heard, like she wrote like fairy tales and folk tales. So she probably knew and referenced a lot of these in like from when she was growing up and heard these stories. And so that just kind of like makes her perspective very authentic because she was like there living it. And it kind of goes along with the second question about like what gives her expertise and authenticity in her stories. And so like I said, she grew up in the culture.